Hello students and welcome back to Educational Technology. This is week 6 and we're going to call it Blended Learning 2. We're continuing to consider the use of digital tools in our analog classes as we work to transform our classrooms into 21st century learning environments through the use of digital technology. We have been considering frameworks of thinking as we reflect on our own experiences and consider how we might substitute, augment, modify, and reconceptualize our classrooms. We are thinking about our technological, pedagogical content knowledge. We are learning to ask specific questions about the digital technology, making sure we're putting the learning first and the technology second. It's not that we want to avoid any use of technology, it's that we want to ensure we're using it so that the students are able to utilize it to communicate, collaborate, critically think, and create. We're working to blend the digital tools with the analog experience to provide a 21st century learning opportunity for all students. And so to that end, this week, we have a consideration for our digital philosophy that we're writing for our digital resumes, and we have some consideration of Bloom's taxonomy as it relates to the integration of technology in our classrooms for higher order thinking skills. First, we have a philosophy consideration. We have a performance, the people versus the school system. In this performance, the school system is put on trial for failing to adapt and evolve, adjusting for the 21st century world. I believe it addresses what is good teaching and what is good learning, but ultimately it also addresses the very central question, what is the purpose of school in society? Why do we want to be teachers? What is it that we think teaching is? What could it be? And why has the school system become stagnant while all other parts of society have advanced and made progress? School remains behind. And I ask you there, what is the role of the teacher in producing change in the education system? What is the purpose of school? How do you see it? And how will you begin to integrate technology to address some of the shortcomings identified here in this video? So please keep those questions in mind as you watch. And I want to encourage you to make sure you're addressing the digital resume. By now, you should have already created the base website. You've shared that URL with me, but you also have to make sure you're beginning to work on it. You should be personalizing it, adding a welcome video. You should be placing all projects or activities that we do somewhere on the portfolio itself. Your first minor project and your blog both belong on your digital resume, but a big part of that resume is something that we do each week in the Prezi, which is ask questions about education and develop our answers to those questions. What is good teaching? What is good learning? Who is the educated person? What's worth knowing? And what is the purpose of school? I provided two examples for you below here. You can take a look at both of these to get an idea of how the resume can be laid out and what aspects you need to add and how you might organize it. It should be a representation of you. So please make sure you are working on your digital resume. Do not delay. Moving into this week, the digital tools that we are starting to play with and utilize help us answer that question, what is good learning? And you may extend it and say, what is good learning through or with educational technology? What are web tools? A very simple definition here are simply web accessible tools that allow our students to engage, enhance, and extend. But what you should really try to think about is, once more, putting that technology in the hands of the students. It's not about the teacher use. It's about the ability of students to use those web tools to inform others. It allows them to collect information and then manipulate that information. They can record videos and then they can edit those videos. They can take pictures. Really, even you can think about Word. How easy is it to write and rearrange information in Microsoft Word? Even the simplest of tech tools allow students to collect and manipulate and then inform. And truly, we want to consider how these digital tools help students think, like concept mapping out ideas, creating sketches and scaffolding their thinking towards something larger. These are 4 ways you can think about how students can use digital tools in the classroom that allow them to communicate, collaborate, think, and create. And as we're thinking about higher order thinking skills, that is the central part of this minor project you're working on with your colleagues. Yes, it is to develop an understanding of the Triple E framework, thinking about how digital tools can authentically and meaningfully engage, enhance, and extend learning in the classroom. But that all comes back around to providing opportunities for students to engage in higher order thinking. We want to put those digital tools in their hands. We want them to use the tools so that they're moving beyond the remembering and the understanding and the applying. We want the students analyzing, evaluating, and creating. And here is a nice infographic that lays it out really well. And it's the digital Bloom's taxonomic verbs. And you can take a look at this and you can go more in depth when you're in charge of the Prezi. But thinking about, if we're looking at remembering, what are the terms? Googling. So Googling is an example of the lowest level of thinking on Bloom's taxonomy. We can move on to analyzing, evaluating, and creating. What this chart does is it utilizes digital tool words and verbs, action verbs, to have you thinking about, for example, creating. What can they create? Podcasts. They can create videos and they can build wikis in addition to other items. And so you can take a look at this more in depth. It aligns those verbs that help you think about, well, what is it you want the students to be doing in the classroom? And where does that fall here on Bloom's taxonomy? Just another way for us to think about the use of the tools. It's not about the tool itself, it's about how the tool allows for moving beyond remembering, understanding, and applying. We want to engage the analytical and the evaluation and the creating stage of Bloom's taxonomy. What does that look like? Here's a couple of infographics. So here's Bloom's taxonomy for iPads. You've got Bloom's over here on the left, and you've all of the programs here laid out with each one of the taxonomic levels. And you can take a look at that, and I ask you, what digital tools are you familiar with, and where do they fit on the taxonomy? Thinking about the taxonomic verbs, what digital tools do you use to create, evaluate, and analyze? What tools do you use to remember, understand, and apply? A similar but a little bit more messy representation is this. Tablet and Web 2.0 tools based on Bloom's taxonomy. This is not iPad specific, but again, it's the same process. You've got your Bloom's taxonomic levels over here, and you have the different programs, applications that students can utilize in the classroom to attain those levels of Bloom's taxonomy. Ask you again, what tools are you familiar with and where do they fit in the taxonomy? You can also use this as a reflection exercise. In the past, how have the teachers you've had utilized tools in the classroom? When have you been able to use technology to create or to evaluate or even analyze? How often did you have the chance to break free from using digital tools to remember, understand, and apply? While those are important levels of thinking, it's critical that in the 21st century we move beyond lower level thinking skills to those higher order thinking skills. And I wanted to show this again. Here is the Pedagogy Wheel version 5.0. And while this focuses on Apple applications, you can most likely find most of these or some other similar program for Android or other tablets. And the reason I like this new version 5.0 is that it does start here in the middle, thinking about Bloom's cognitive domain. So you've got remember and understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. They've got the number of apps, but also around the edge, they have the SAMR model identified. And so in remembering, you've got substitution. And so here's the substitution level that kind of blends between remembering and understanding. And then here is augmentation, which goes from understanding into applying. And then we move from applying into analyze and evaluate, which is the modification stage. And then we move from modification up to redefinition, which is the evaluation into the creation. And you can zoom in and take a look at all of these. And again, it's the Bloom's level. You've got your verbs, the activities, and then the programs. Note what is at the center. Learning first, technology second. And actually, learning first. This is all learning. Our focus in this course is on the thinking. We want to think before we get into the classroom. It's all of the planning, all of the preparation, and the thinking that goes into before you step into the classroom. And if you'd like, you can download this by hovering over the QR code with your camera, and you can download and you can find this yourself. I think it's a useful tool for thinking about digital technology integration. So please keep Bloom's in mind. It can help you think about technology integration as you are working on your tools projects and as you're working on your philosophy. How does Bloom's taxonomy help you answer what is good teaching and learning with digital technology? Students, after you're done reviewing the Prezi and working through it, please go to the rest of the learning module. If you have any questions, please email me. Thank you so very much. Have a great week.